Hello and welcome to this week's video. My name is Anuska Taylor. Thank you so much for joining me. So on today's video, I am going to be talking all about how you can start to bring your words to life because your vocal delivery really matters. It's not about what you say. I know that everyone's obsessed with getting the right words, crafting the perfect script, the perfect story, but it's more about the delivery. The delivery being the voice quality, the voice energy, the voice tone. And we know this to be true. You can have two, three people say exactly the same words. Some people you will be really compelled to listen to, and some people you'll switch off. And also it can give it a completely different meaning depending on the tone of voice, which is something we're going to be talking about in this video because I'm going to share some exercises at the end that you can try and you can see this for yourself. But before I get going, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe. It makes such a difference. And also, if you enjoy my videos, please give me a thumbs up. Please leave a comment. And if you have any topics you'd like me to cover next year, also comment below. And finally, if you are interested in working with me next year, but would like to secure my 2024 rates, please do either schedule your session now for next year or get in contact with me as soon as possible if you're interested in my full private coaching program. And that way you can secure my current rates. They will be increasing in 2025. So this idea of bringing words to life and expression is one of the things I think a lot of people struggle with. And certainly when I'm working with clients, it's something that people really want help with. So unless you've come from a singing or an acting background, it probably will be something that you struggle with. Because for most of us, we have been conditioned to really just get the bare minimum out with our voice. As long as we can be vaguely understood, then that's all that matters. And for most of us, it's about flying under the radar. I don't want to draw too much attention to myself. I just want to fit in. The more expressive we are, the more engaging we are, the more compelling we are, the more we're going to have people listening to us. So on an unconscious level, you can see why people really struggle with this and find it very, very difficult to really apply in their voice. But if you really want to make a bigger impact, and actually I would also argue bring more joy to your public speaking, then you want to really start to connect more to the delivery of what you're saying than focusing on crafting the perfect script, the perfect presentation, the perfect words. Because actually, this is what's going to bring your words to life. It's all about the delivery, which starts from you, how you feel about yourself, the intention that you are bringing to your words. And that is what's going to dictate whether your audience is left cold when they listen to you or whether they really want to listen to you, whether they're really drawn in. So the first thing I want to say is this is not an intellectual process. And I'm going to talk a little bit more why this is the case, because for a lot of people, they are trying to micromanage their voice to get it to do something. So they're like, okay, well, I need to intonate. I need to modulate. So let me try and move my voice up and down. But you know how to do this. And I can give you some examples of why this is true. In situations where there is heightened emotion, your voice will naturally be expressive. But it's because you're not in your head, you're very present, you're in your body, and you're responding to a situation around you. But let me give you some examples. So it could be if you're someone that likes adrenaline sports, you like jumping out of a plane or bungee jumping, or you like scary roller coasters, you might be someone that screams a lot. This is me. And it just comes out. You're not trying to scream. You're not trying to do anything with your voice. You're not thinking, how do I scream? You just scream. You scream, you yell, you shout. There's all of that happening in your voice, and you're not controlling it because you're not in your head. You're in your body. You're present in the moment. The voice takes care of itself. It could also be if you're in a situation where it's more of a survival situation, maybe you're feeling threatened, maybe you think there's an intruder in your house, you will not hesitate to shout, scream, yell, do whatever you need to do to keep yourself safe. So again, this heightened emotion, you're not in your head thinking about how do I do this? You just do it. And then another example might be if you're around babies or you've just had a baby or you've got a pet. And I know for me, my voice changes when I'm around my pet. I mean, my cats. 100%. And when I'm around my nieces, when I'm around young children, the voice changes. Again, I'm not thinking, how do I get my pitch to go higher? How do I bring more softness to my voice? It just happens because I'm not in my head. I'm connected to the emotion of the situation. I'm present in my body, and the voice takes care of itself. Now, this is not to say you don't need to do the training, because the training actually allows you to access more of this in the moment. But my point is that you already know how to do this. And the reason you think you don't is because you're intellectually trying to micromanage your voice. You're thinking, well, how do I yell? The amount of times I've heard a client say that to me, I don't know how to scream. I don't know how to yell. And I know that's not true because if I put them in a specific scenario, I have no doubt they would be able to scream and yell. But it's the emotional blocks we put on our voice that this isn't safe. And as I said before, for most of us, our voice use is just about fitting in, flying under the radar, and not drawing too much attention to ourselves. So it's only when we're in these heightened situations, very emotional situations, good, bad, or ugly, that the voice takes over. Because I want to share this with you because you already have everything you need. All the apparatus is there. It knows what to do. You've got to get out of your own way. So this is not an intellectual process. This is an emotional process. And that's why it's so challenging for people. Because for most of us, we're conditioned to run away from our feelings, to distract, to avoid, to do anything. Let me just go to the gym, go for a run. Let me do whatever I need to do to not feel. And it's so conditioned in us all. But what I'm saying to you is for you to be a great speaker or singer, you have to be able to connect emotionally to your words. So the exercises I'm going to share with you now, I suggest you do them in private. So wait till you've got the house to yourself, or do them in the car, or do them somewhere where you feel you're not going to be overheard. You're not going to be worried about people listening, because you need to feel completely safe to play around with this, because this is not intellectual. This is emotional, and you need to get out of your own way. All voice use is really about getting out of your own way to connect emotionally to music, to words, etc. So what I'm going to suggest you do is pick a sentence that you can apply to all three exercises, but I want you to pick something that's very relevant to your career or your business. So don't pick something too theatrical or poetic, because that makes this easier. You can use the sentence that I'm going to share, or you can pick your own. So the sentence that I'm going to use is, I asked my client to sign the contract. So it's a very boring sentence. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at three ways we could work with a fairly dry, boring sentence and bring it to life. And the purpose of this is I want you to start to see the possibilities that are in your voice right now. This is not to say that you now go and do this with everything that you say, but what we're doing is we're exploring the edges of your voice. We're waking this up, this creativity, this expression that, as I said, is there already. It's just dormant. It's 100% there. Unless you've got any major issues on your voice where your voice literally doesn't function, for most people watching my videos, there's nothing wrong physically with their voice. It's a fear of expression. It's an emotional, psychological problem, quote unquote, versus a physical limitation. Number one, then, you're going to take this sentence and you're going to read it in three different ways. So the first one is I want you to read it with anger and frustration. Second one is I want you to read it with playfulness and joy. And the third one, I want you to read it with fear and anxiety. But this is not an intellectual process. So I don't want you to think, how do I get my voice out? What I want you to do is connect first to the emotion, and then I want you to speak it. What I would also recommend you do is you record it so you can hear the difference. And then you can just really be present with the exercise. So I'm going to give you an example of what this might sound like. But what I don't want you to do is just copy what I'm doing. I want you to tap into your own heart, your own emotions, and allow whatever comes out for you to come out. It's not just about copying me. I asked my client to sign the contract, a very neutral, boring sentence. So if I was to say this maybe with a lot of anger and frustration, I asked my client to sign the contract. If I was to say this with more playfulness and joy, I asked my client to sign the contract. And then if I was to do it in a more fearful, scared way, I asked my client to sign the contract. So this is just an example, but hopefully you can hear some differences in my voice. You do need to connect to the emotion. I just cannot overemphasize this enough. Don't intellectualize this, feel it. So connect to something. Think of a situation in your life where you felt fear or where you felt joy or where you felt anger. Feel it, then speak it. So really interesting exercise. So whatever sentence you want, but keep the sentence fairly neutral, not something that would be easy to access emotion around. So a fairly dry, boring, neutral sentence. Okay, so that's exercise number one. This is something I do often get clients to do, just so that they can start to play around with this in their own voice. And just notice what happens to your voice when you get in touch with a particular emotion. The second one, which might be more challenging for some of you, and I would argue that everyone loves to sing. Whether you think you can sing or not is another matter. But I think most people love to sing, whether it's in the car or in the shower or when everyone's left the house. But what I want you to do is sing the sentence, make up some melodies. There's no right or wrong here. This is just you exploring your voice. So it doesn't matter how you sound. It doesn't matter if your voice cracks, if your voice sounds breathy and weak. It doesn't matter. This is not a singing lesson. This is about you just exploring more of the edges of your voice. So example could be, I asked my client to sign a contract. Okay, just as an example. You can do whatever you like. That's number two. So you can do as many different melodies as you like. Again, don't try and make it sound perfect. Just do it. Just see what comes out. Just have a go. And then number three is I want you to take the sentence and first of all, overemphasize the consonants and then overemphasize the vowels and see what it does to your voice. Because some accents are more kind of consonant dominant, some accents are more vowel dominant. So depending on what it is for you, you might find that balance by going a little bit in the other direction. But it's really, really good just to play around with this in your voice. So if I was to take that sentence, first of all, very consonant dominant, I asked the client to sign the contract. So it's quite harsh. It's very, when I do that, very consonant heavy. Now, vowel heavy, think about vowels as how we allow more emotion into our voice. I asked the client to sign the contract. So you can see why people would not want to do this because it does sound a little bit silly, but I want you to allow yourself to sound silly, allow your voice to go where it wants to go without being too in your head and just see what happens. See, there's probably going to be parts of your voice you're like, oh, actually, I quite like it when my voice goes up there. Remember, you want to record all of this so that you can actually hear it back because in your head, it might sound ridiculous, but actually when you hear it back, you might be like, oh, actually, I quite like it when my voice goes a little bit higher, or I quite like it when my voice has a bit more depth. You don't know until you listen because what you hear in your head is not what anyone else hears. So see this as an exploratory exercise, exploring the edges, seeing what's possible with your voice, and record it, listen back, and just start to play around with this. You can take as many sentences as you want. You could spend a long time even just making up some melodies and singing the sentence. You could spend half an hour doing that, but really just play around with this. This is an exercise in being playful and getting out of your head, into your heart, into your body, and being present with your voice, because that is where it all lives. That is where your true voice lives. That is where your most compelling, engaging, and impactful voice lives. It's not going to come from you being in your head and micromanaging your voice. It's going to come when you are connected deeply to the truth of who you are. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been really helpful. If you want to comment below about how you found it, I'd love to know. If not, I'll see you on next week's video.